We made it. We are back. You. Yes, you. If you've heard this review is cursed, you are right. I'm sorry. I realize this seems really weird. You may not know me, but I know you. I know every one of you. And I don't have much time to explain. But for now, for those brave viewers who don't know me, I'm the goddamn comic book mustache. And be careful, because if you finish this review, it's too late.
Who are we to find this nature of existence? What is real, what we can perceive versus the subconscious, what we dream, where we can go. These comic books, they are the portals to our dreams, the bridge between worlds. What we can dream, what we can conceive, what we can create here, now. Comic books, existence, peace. Mustache.
Hola, senors and senoritas. I am that Mustachio Bandito, the comic book mustache, bringer of mustache, breaker of chains, and self-declared king of Westeros. And I am here today to talk about Multiversity, Ultra Comics, #1 from DC by one of my favorite writers, Grant Morrison, and artist Doug Mahnke, the team that brought us Final Crisis. I'm a big fan of Morrison. I know a lot of people do not like him. It is very up in the air. Some people find him pretentious. Some people find him too weird. Some people find him too meta. And the other people, they embrace him for all of these bizarre things. I am one of those people. I think that he is a genius, and Multiversity has been fantastic. Basically, for those who don't know, Multiversity is Grant Morrison being handed the reins to the DC multiverse and acting kind of as an architect to design and build all these worlds. Each chapter so far in Multiversity has taken place on one of the alternate worlds in the DC universe, and they have all been linked via comic books, and there's a threat coming to Multiverse. Ultra Comics has been by far the most bizarre portion of Multiversity yet, and possibly the most Morrison book of Morrison books ever composed, going as far as to actually throw the reader inside of the pages, leaving us literally trapped inside these haunted pieces of sequential art.
We both agree that you're interacting with a real physical object. And we both know you're starting to realize this isn't just any comic book.
You son of a bitch. So, let's get started on the story. I'm going to try my best. It is really complicated. And as I explained before, each segment of Multiversity has taken place in a different universe within the DC's 52 universes that compose the multiverse. Confusing enough, it gets worse. This chapter takes place on our very own world. Yes, the world that we, the readers of this comic book, exist in. And Morrison throws all of his cards on the table right from panel 1, where our hero, Ultra Comics, clever name, that's how they got the title, tells us, yes, us, the reader, that he is from 38 pages in the future. And what we, us, the reader, are holding in our hands, this comic book. This comic book is haunted, he warns us. It seems the very big bad that has been the antagonist in this Multiversity saga that's been threatening the entire multiverse is using comic book pulp literature as a gateway into the minds of its readers throughout the entire multiverse. From here on out, we see the creation of Ultraman as an actual comic book character. Yes, a comic book character who exists in this book in our very world. designed to capture these nasty, hostile, independent thought forms existing within pulp literature. So by the end of this issue, I couldn't feel my brain work. The entire concept of evil forces using comic books to infiltrate parallel worlds of the DC multiverse is cool, far out, and meta to begin with. And including the Earth in which we, the reader of this comic book, actually inhabits within the multiverse is equally as cool to me. And while many comics have utilized the whole breaking of the fourth wall to communicate to its readers, like Deadpool, even Morrison himself, when he had Buddy Baker, Animal Man, communicate with us and acknowledge that he is a comic book character, and Grant Morrison himself was creating him. Even though those fourth wall boundaries have been broken before, this is a huge difference between a superhero complaining and acknowledging his fictional existence as a comic book character and otherworldly forces using comic books. The comic book you're actually holding, in fact, using that comic book to infiltrate us with some otherworldly, ungodly forces to actually kill you, the reader, which is the intent of what's happening inside of this book. Not only does the story in Ultra Comics acknowledge that it's a comic, the entirety of the issue kind of hinges on the reader's participation. It lives and succeeds based on you, yes you, the reader's participation, and it's not just to entertain, it's here to save you. If you're the kind of reader that I mentioned before, the kind of person who doesn't like Grant Morrison because he thinks he's too meta, too far out, too much of a druggie, too weird, doesn't know his head from his ass, you are going to fucking hate this book, but you're probably a dumbass and I don't care. Anyway, as Grant Morrison, a renowned creator, one of the most famous of all time, up there with the Alan Moores and the Neil Gaimans, as he departs from DC and Marvel, Multiversity being his last ongoing at one of the major publication companies, this series and this issue in particular definitely feels like his curtain call, his big swan song, his big farewell. He is a smart man who not only truly loves superheroes and these comic book characters, he really, really understands them. And within the postmodern era of comics, a central theme has always been the deconstruction of the superhero, which really began with Alan Moore's Marvel Man run, or Miracle Man, whatever the fuck you want to call it nowadays. A character that I felt Ultra Comics heavily kind of paralleled. By acknowledging not only that the character exists inside of a work of fiction, but also that fiction is actually capable of impacting our own realities. I feel Morrison executed the perfect end cap, really, for his tenure working with these timeless classic characters. It even had a sequence bringing Ultra Comics as Ultra Hero throughout each era of comic books, executing the tone and sensibility from each of the time periods, Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and this modern, postmodern, gritty bullshit.
Take that, Buster! I'll save you.
What are you looking at?
I may have mentioned before that the art from this issue was done by Doug MAHNKE, who had previously collaborated with Grant Morrison on Final Crisis, an equally confusing piece of literature from Grant Morrison. MAHNKE has always done a great job being able to bring these far out crazy concepts to existence. I can only imagine what one of Grant Morrison's scripts looks like and how he explains these things. And it's got to be a really daunting task to be able to actually take that and turn it into something real. Doug MAHNKE does an amazing job at that. Morrison's ideas are so far out, and he turns these concepts into creation, which is not an easy task, I bet. Great detail was put into exhibiting the various tropes of comic books, since this was kind of deconstructing all of those things, and the different ages, which I mentioned before. And he really succeeded. This was a crazy experiment, and although the writing was great, it wouldn't have worked so well without MAHNKE's art. I also had to really take particular note and give him credit for how well he did facial expressions and just expressionism in general in this comic book. It was truly beautiful, and you could feel every emotion the characters were displaying just through their faces and their gestures. Doug MAHNKE, great A work, hombre. As I mentioned before, this is the most Grant Morrison comic book that Grant Morrison has ever done. And I've also mentioned I'm a gigantic fucking fan of Grant Morrison, so this was the perfect thing for me to read. I highly suggest reading this if you love superheroes, or if you enjoy just deconstructing superheroes for what they are and taking literature as something that can truly affect your own reality and be brought to life. You hear these things in your head, you visualize their voices, you can feel what's happening to them, what makes them just as real as you and I. What is real, what isn't? Grant Morrison, amazing job, and Doug MAHNKE, amazing art to top it off. Considering all these factors, I have to be giving this the 5 sombrero rating. Perfect score, Multiversity! So, if you are interested in picking up comic books like DC Comics, Multiversity, Ultra Comics, #1, find a local comic shop near you. Go to comicshoplocator.com, type in your zip code, and you can find one. And if you can't, just download your comics digitally, because it's really easy using the Comixology app. It's available for almost every platform, iOS, Android, so no matter what you have, you can probably just be reading comics with the click of a button. And if you don't feel like reading them digitally, I bet your town's got a library, and I bet they have comic books or can get them for you. It's free, and knowledge is motherfucking power. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's really easy. It takes a click. It doesn't mean a lot to you, but means a lot to me. It's so simple. Check out my contest. If you enjoy this, you can actually control my channel for an entire week. What's in the contest? Go to the video and find out. It's a few back in the feed. I hope everyone's been enjoying all the weird nonsense that I've been posting this week. I apologize. I will be working on a short feature soon, so I'm kind of testing out some things. Hence, that generic student film art house bullshit and that really awesome Birdman parody. So check that out. And as always, I have to end this with some words of wisdom. A man is only as wise as his mustache. Adios, bro chachos. And read this fucking comic book, please.